and welcome to episode 2 of RedeeM, where we help you reverse your story. And we help you reverse your story by doing 3 things. We help you integrate tragedy, we help you redeem heartache, and we help you flourish in life. So today, on today's episode, I am talking about imposter syndrome. And why am I talking about imposter syndrome? Because I struggle with imposter syndrome. I'm trying to help people reverse their stories, and I have all kinds of stories myself of feeling like an imposter, and because of that, I never followed through on my dream. So that is screaming at me now as I start my dream of RedeeM, of helping people reverse their stories. So I thought it would be good to do an episode teaching you, but also sharing my own story and my own journey. So imposter syndrome is the experience of, for lack of a better word, it's the experience of being an imposter. Like you don't belong, or like somebody is going to find something out about you that's flawed about you, and then as a result of that, something negative is going to happen. And usually that is the experience of shame, the experience of being rejected, unwanted, or pushed away. So because we are now living in the age of artificial intelligence, I thought it would be helpful to see what ChatGPT had to say. And this is what ChatGPT had to say about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern in which people doubt their skills, accomplishments, or qualifications, and fear being exposed as a fraud, even when they are competent and successful. Key features include persistent self-doubt despite evidence of ability, attributing success to luck, timing, or external factors, fear of being found out as not good enough, setting very high standards and feeling inadequate when they're not met, difficulty internalizing achievements. That's a very synthesized list. And there are 5 types. Type 1, or just number 1, I don't know if there's a particular order. Number 1 is the perfectionist. The perfectionist believes anything less than perfect is failure. I can identify with that one. Focuses on flaws instead of accomplishments. Yeah, that one's true. I definitely see my flaws and other flaws instead of my accomplishments and theirs. Sets unrealistically high standards. I would say yes and no. Number 2, the expert. Feels they must know everything before acting. Yeah. Worries about being exposed as uninformed. Yeah. Yeah. Hesitates to apply for roles or opportunities unless 100% qualified. No, because I'm starting RedeeMed and I don't feel 100% qualified for it. I know I am. I know I have accomplishments, I have achievements, I have skills, I have qualifications, and yet there's still this underlying nagging feeling in me that I don't really belong and no one's really going to find what I have to say helpful. But I'm doing this anyway because I'm living into what I'm afraid of, because it matters to me. It matters to me. It matters to me that people live their dreams and their God-given gifts. So I would say for the expert, this last one hesitates to apply for roles or opportunities unless 100% qualified. I tend to step out before I'm actually qualified. And maybe that's why I do struggle with the imposter syndrome. Number 3, the soloist. feels they must do everything alone. Yeah, and I'll come back to this one. But just to comment, a lot of this has to do with your attachment type. I'll just leave it at that. Avoids asking for help because it feels like weakness. Because weakness is vulnerability. And if you're vulnerable, you're setting yourself up to be hurt. So why do that? Why do that when you have had many experiences of being hurt? Just don't be vulnerable. Thinks relying on others proves they're not capable. Okay, I don't really identify with that one too much. Number 4, the natural genius. Believes abilities should come effortlessly. Yeah. Sometimes. I have a natural ability for sports and using my body to do things. So when I have some experiences where I don't pick something up quickly, sometimes I feel like, oh, I'm just not made for this. I shouldn't do this. I should be a natural genius. Feels shame when something requires effort or learning. Yep, and we'll talk about that more in a story I'll share. Compares themselves to others who seem to just get it. I tend to compare myself to people who are very successful, and then I feel like an idiot because I'm nowhere close to what they're achieving. And then I feel like an imposter, and then I listen to the fear and the shame, and I don't move in what actually matters and is important to me or my values. Number 5, superhuman. Believes they must excel in every domain. Work, family, relationships, hobbies. Yeah, identify with that one. I try to be perfect in all the life domains. Number 5, pushes themselves harder to prove they aren't imposters. Yeah, but I don't necessarily think of it as proving that I'm not an imposter, but I definitely have what I call a performance-driven ness that like it will get activated and then I'll just be in adrenaline and cortisol trying to achieve. Often ends up exhausted or burned out. Yep. And then at the end of that, of trying to prove that I'm not an imposter, of working super hard, I end up burning out and I'm exhausted. And then I feel like even more of a failure and an imposter. So this is what ChatGPT says to do. How to manage imposter feelings. Now, again, this is just suggestions. These are not necessarily what a therapist or a counselor would recommend, but these are good suggestions. But I'm going to provide some more detail that ChatGPT doesn't know about. Or, well, it might know about, but hasn't linked it yet for a deeper conversation about what actually causes true transformation inside. These are very surface level tactical things to manage imposter feelings. But then if you want to go a level deeper and actually address it on a neurological, biological level to where like a spiritual level to where it's internalized and you're like, it's not so on the surface inside of you. Like if you don't if you want to get to the point where it's embodied to where you don't have to work to manage and keep it all suppressed and hidden and shoved down, then listen to what I have to say after this. If not, this is a good way to manage it. Recognize the pattern. Just naming it. This is imposter syndrome. Helps reduce its power. And again, this is all from ChatGPT, which I agree with. Reframe your thoughts. Shift from I don't belong here to everyone learns. I'm growing. Collect evidence of your competence. Keep a file of accomplishments, compliments, and wins. This is actually a really good one. And I don't do this enough, partially because I don't always believe that my accomplishments and compliments and wins are actually worth celebrating, because I would compare them to someone else who's accomplished something much greater than I. And so I'm like, why would I celebrate this? Because I'm not accomplishing that. If I accomplished that, that would actually be worth celebrating. But it doesn't feel big enough, so it's not really worth celebrating. So this one I'm going to do more of. So that was number 3. Number 4, talk about it. Talk to me about it. Comment. Send me a video. Send me an email. Send me a message. And talk to me about your imposter syndrome. Sharing with friends, mentors, or colleagues often reveals they feel the same way. That's kind of what I'm doing here. Number 5, normalize mistakes. Errors don't prove incompetence. They're part of learning. And this is how imposter syndrome can be managed very well, is just reframing failure as learning, which is really hard to do when you have tons of people around you and tons of experiences and stories who have all told you you're a failure in so many words or ways, instead of being like, hey, yeah, you failed and we'll deal with it and you're going to grow and learn. So normalize mistakes. Errors don't prove incompetence. They're part of learning. Number 6, set realistic standards. Not everything needs to be perfect. Good enough is often truly enough. I'm not saying that we shouldn't strive for excellence, but I definitely do struggle with perfectionism. So this one's a good one. Set realistic standards. Number 7, practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness you'd offer someone else in your situation, which is kind of hard because in your situation, you probably weren't actually given compassion by the person you were working with or looking to normalize and help you. And so then we end up being very harsh with ourselves or with other people we're working with, because we end up reenacting and continuing on the same story of contempt for their imperfection and for their struggle and for their not knowing. So it's hard to practice self-compassion when you haven't been given compassion. And that's part of why I want you to reach out to me. I want you to experience some compassion coming from me to you so that you can begin to internalize it and then change your story about your imposter syndrome. So that's ChatGPT's information about imposter syndrome, its types, and how to manage it, which I think was good. My notes is that what goes deeper than the surface level things that are very obvious about imposter syndrome and how to manage it, it really stems from a lack of secure attachment. And when you don't have secure attachments, you develop insecure attachments because like security means that you know it's not going to change. Or like if it is going to change, you know that the core is going to be preserved, although the particularities of the relationship might change. Whereas insecurity is you don't know that you have that solid foundation. And so there's anxiousness in what is going to happen in this relationship. We could get into the 4 types of attachment. I won't here, just to say that there are types of insecure attachment, and then there is the secure attachment, which is the thing that cures, in my opinion, cures imposter syndrome on a deep embodied way. And that happens through people to people. not through artificial intelligence, not through self-compassion, although self-compassion is a component. You need compassion from a caring other, someone who wants to see you successful, has developed some type of an attachment and bond with you, and is able to normalize failure and to help you metabolize the failure and the consequences, whatever those may be. More severe consequences will have more severe ramifications that have to be dealt with. But hopefully, whatever you're dealing with, the consequences aren't so risk producing that there needs to be major containment of those consequences, but that the consequences are very, very minor. And so it's very easy to normalize those failures. So that's what I have to say about it. I would say that imposter syndrome can be changed. Its need state can be changed from a one of insecurity to security through secure attachment. And here's a story to kind of give an example of this. So I work in commercial HVAC as my day job. And this is a story that I experienced early on in my apprenticeship program as I was learning the trade. So this is how the story goes. When I started in the HVAC industry, I was excited and thrilled to be in such an interesting trade. I worked in commercial HVAC and was put on a project starting up large air handlers and electric fan motors for a government hospital. I started working as an apprentice, so I was learning under journeyman on a construction job. One day, we were changing out a potable hot water pump. It was located 10 feet in the air in piping, so we had to access it with 10-foot ladders. So we isolated the piping, we drained it after we let the hot water cool off first. We didn't want to get scalding water on us, so we let the water cool and we drained it, and then we removed the pump and the electric wiring to it, and we installed the new pump. And then the journeyman gave me the task, which was an exciting task to me because I loved electricity, of wiring up the motor. It was a 3-phase motor with a ground wire. The 3 wires for the 3 phases were color-coded and the ground was green. I began connecting the wires to the motor and terminating them appropriately for each phase. However, the opening to access these terminations in the pump was very confined and small. My fingers didn't fit in to handle the wires well, and the wires themselves were in a crowded space. It took me over 30 minutes with great difficulty to begin getting the wires into their positions. And the journeyman I was working with stood at the bottom of the ladder and became impatient with my struggle. He started pacing back and forth. This made me all the more nervous. His body language was communicating that he wasn't pleased with my progress. He started making comments. "Come on, how long is this going to take you?" After several of these types of comments, I had had enough. I got down off the ladder and said angrily, "You do it then." He got up on the ladder and within 5 to 10 minutes had it wired up and the opening closed. We powered on the pump, then tested rotation of the motor, which was in the correct direction. The job was done. However, the tension between us was palpable. We had had what is called a rupture in the relationship dynamic. And now I felt like a fool for taking so long. This rupture was never repaired, and I felt the job that day, and I left the job that day, feeling ashamed for taking so long. This would begin haunting me the rest of my apprenticeship. I would start feeling anxious about the journeyman I was working with if a project was taking longer than I thought it should. And so then I would feel like an imposter if something was taking me longer than I thought it should take me. Then I would feel like, well, I must be a fraud. Like I should have this. I should know this by now. Now, that's a lie. That's not true. But those were the messages and the beliefs that I received from the person I was in a relationship with. So here's some reflections on the story. What would have happened if the journeyman had said, "Hey, I see you're struggling. Would you like some help?" What if he got up on the ladder with me and showed me how to handle the wires? What if he had given me space to learn on my own? Like more than 30 minutes, which is a long time to stare at an apprentice on a ladder handling 4 wires. What if he didn't become impatient? What if I had felt secure enough to ask for help? What if, like, after a certain amount of struggle, I was like, you know what, I'm not getting this and I can see he's becoming impatient. Why don't I just ask for some help? Say I'm struggling. But you know what? I didn't feel like I could do that, which are whole other stories on why I didn't feel secure enough to say that. I already had an insecure style of attachment and was struggling with imposter syndrome all throughout my life. So here it was playing out with this journeyman. But what if I had felt secure enough to ask for help when I didn't know what I was doing? What if I trusted him enough to believe he could help me if I asked him without the humiliation or the ridicule or the shaming? So the answers to these questions are about secure attachment. Secure attachment happens when we're able to be ourselves and there's room to fail and grow without experiencing blame, shame, or humiliation. Now, different types of failure have different consequences, so the oversight and collaboration needs to be proportional to the risks of consequences. So I don't know if you can relate to the story, but I hope that the information about the imposter syndrome is helpful for you. It was helpful for me. If you want help with the imposter syndrome, I do consulting and coaching. I would be very grateful to work with you. I would be blessed to work with you and give you some experiences of normalizing the learning process and the failure process, and to give you some embodied experiences of secure attachment. Thanks for watching. Remember, reverse your story. Integrate tragedy, redeem heartache, and flourish in life. I'm Nick. This is RedeeM. Thanks for watching.